بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate and the most merciful, I greet you with the beautiful Islamic greeting of Assalamu alaikum. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, I am honored to be standing here before you tonight to say a few words. And of course, what is there to say after the Honorable Bob Carr said it all, particularly about the plight of the Palestinian people and the genocide, the active genocide that is taking place in Gaza as we speak. The Islamic Society of South Australia, as you have seen, have served the community for the last 70 years. And their history is quite remarkable because, for me, it's a continuation of the history of Muslims in Australia. As you have heard, the Cameliers, the Afghan Cameliers came and did the marvelous job that they have done to try to connect the interior of Australia. And they built their first mosque in Maree and then, of course, the Adelaide Mosque. And the Islamic Society of South Australia is nothing but a continuation of that legacy. But of course, as you all know, Muslims came to Australia before the Afghan Cameliers. They came in the 1650s, in fact, when the Makassars from Indonesia came to Australia, and they used to trade with the first peoples of this nation, the Aboriginal people, especially in Arnhem Land. And so one could easily say and state a fact that Muslim presence in Australia predates white settlement by at least 200 years. And the interesting thing, of course, is that the relationship and the engagement of the Makassars who came in the 1650s with the Aboriginal people, the first peoples of this nation, and also the engagement and the relationship the Afghan Cameliers had with the Australian people is no different to the relationship and the engagement the Islamic Society of South Australia has had with also the society and the community. And all of them came with one intent, and they served that beautifully, and that is to serve communities and to build relations with people, not to destroy those relations. And it is for this reason, if you study the history of the Makassars, you see that the Aboriginal people of Arnhem Land, until today, they speak highly of the positive relationship of the Makassan Muslims who came. And one interesting fact is that the relationship was quite positive and humane because the Makassars came to Australia not as settler colonialists. They did not come to steal land, but they came to engage with people like people. And that led to a fruitful, positive relationship that until today is spoken about. And I think this is a very important point to underline. And that is, what is the intent? What is the ultimate purpose of our institutions? What is the ultimate purpose of an Islamic Society of South Australia? What is the ultimate purpose of our political institutions? What is the ultimate intent of our educational institutions? If it is not to make humans humans again and to connect humanity together, then what is the value in any of those institutions? What we do in terms of politics or the service of the community should be seen as instrumental aims that should lead us to an ultimate aim. And that ultimate aim is to bring humanity together. And if you see the work of Islamic Society of Australia, if I was to focus on one thing only, and that is, I feel that is what they exactly were trying to do for the last 70 years. How to bring humans together. And we are humans, we're all the same, despite our differences. The underlying factor is that we are humans. And if we focus on that, we will get somewhere. And so the activities of the Islamic Society of South Australia was precisely to bring people together through their education, through their festivals, through their mosque activities, and those people, be they Muslim community itself or the wider community. because that is the essence. And if we fail in that essence, we fail in our responsibilities, and we fail as humans. And I dare I say the Western civilization failed. We don't have to wait for the test to see if they failed Gaza. They failed Gaza, just like they failed Iraq in 2003, and just like they failed Syria. And the reason is, one of the most important reasons that we should all try to avoid in our own personal lives, is that when you begin to see the other human as the other, and you think you are better than them, and you have a supremacist mindset that allows you to colonize and subjugate and steal and destroy and commit acts of genocide openly, because humanity has been lost in these people. And when humanity is lost, you can commit any act and nobody will stop you. This is the very essence of dehumanization. And so all of our efforts as the Islamic Society of South Australia, or all of our efforts, whatever institution it is, at the core of our activities, it should be how not to dehumanize people. Because the minute we dehumanize them, you allow for yourself all acts of atrocities and genocide and massacres, just like we see in Gaza today. One of the most important things for me in as far as the Islamic Society of South Australia was their moral stance, which is very important for any human being to decide at some point in their life to take a moral stance and to have a moral backbone and to say enough is enough. And that's exactly what the Islamic Society did in the manifestation of its president, Brother Ahmed Zariqa, our dear friend Ahmed Zariqa, when Gaza started, the Gaza genocide started, and we were failed by our politicians, except some like in the Green Party who came to our aid. But the truth be said, we were failed by all other major parties. And we were treated, I would dare I say, less than human. And we became absolutely of no value in their eyes. And that is why when Brother Ahmed Zariqa, with of course the consent of his society, decided to pull out from certain engagements with state government because they failed us. And more importantly, they failed the people of Gaza who are undergoing genocide. The story of the Makassar Muslims and the story of the Afghan Cameliers and the story of Islamic Society of Australia also tells us about a bigger story, and that is the story of humanity, and precisely the story of the Islamic civilization and the European civilization. For many a times in the West today, especially in history, when we teach history, we like to completely ignore the Islamic civilization. And that leads to dehumanization, by the way. We like to ignore the fact that had it not been for the Islamic civilization, Europe would not be where it is today. If you don't believe me, go and read the book by David Lewis, Islam and the Making of Europe, one of America's greatest historians. These realities need to be acknowledged in order for our humanity to grow. The Greeks would not have become what they did in terms of their civilization without the Egyptians. And the Islamic civilization would not have emerged as a supreme civilization in terms of science and technology and philosophy had it not been for the Greeks. And the European Western civilization would not have become what it is today had it not been for the Islamic civilization. This is a story of interconnectedness. As the story of the Islamic Society of Australia, it's a story of interconnectedness. It is not a story of isolation. It is not a story of segregation. It is not a story of prejudice and racism. It is a story of interconnectedness. And unless we begin to recognize our interconnectedness as human beings, we will continue to dehumanize one another. And as you dehumanize the other, you justify for yourself doing the most immoral acts, as we are witnessing today in Gaza. There is one verse in the Quran that beautifully sums up all of this, where it says, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. This verse is so beautifully captures the essence of humanity. Where it says, Allah says, God says in the Quran, the meaning of the verse, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. The interesting thing is the beginning of this verse is addressing all people. Though it is the Quran, Islam's holiest book, but the address here by God is to everybody. Not Muslims only, Ya ayyuhan nas. And the Quran is distinct in this regard, for sometimes it addresses Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu, O believers. But in this instance it says Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, so that the address is to you and to me and to everybody. We have created you from male and female, Adam and Eve, and then made you into nations and tribes. An obvious fact, but here is the point of the verse and the ultimate purpose for this difference. And the beauty behind these differences, the difference between our ethnicities and languages and colors and so forth. And we have made you into nations and tribes, meaning you are all different, and so it should be. But the purpose is لِتَعَارَفُوا, so that you may get to know each other, not to kill each other, not to fight each other because of difference. And this is what I feel what symbolizes the Islamic Society of South Australia, the spirit and the desire to bring people together. And I've seen that over the last 9 years. It says so لِتَعَارَفُوا, it's a double emphasis in this verse, so that you make the active effort, so that you go out of your way to learn and to know the other. Because once you know and you learn about the other with humility, you may perchance stop dehumanizing them. And then the verse ends by saying, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The most noble of you in the sight of God who created you is not the white and is not the non-white, is not the Arab and not the non-Arab. It says the most noble of you in the sight of God are those who are most righteous. It has nothing to do with gender, it has nothing to do with race, and it has nothing to do with ethnicity. But it has to do with something in your heart. It has to do with action. And if, as the Honorable Bob Carr said, if people don't have a heart and allow a baby in an incubator to die, then that is indeed shameful. That is absolutely shameful. And it is shameful that the Australian government, all they could do so far, after 2 years of genocide, we had to wait for a statement that they recognize Palestine. Well done, we do accept it. That's a positive sign, but that is not enough. And it is rather too late. More needs to be done immediately. If there is genuine intent behind such a statement, then more needs to be done immediately. And we all know that. Absolutely. No needs to be done. Immediate sanctions, immediate boycott, as we have heard so far. Otherwise, it will be lip service, and the cycle continues. My friends, this is a night where we congratulate the Islamic Society of South Australia for their tremendous efforts and work. My dear brother and friend, Brother Ahmed Zraiqa, and your committee, wonderful committee, all of you, Jazakumullah khaira. Yes, thank you very much. May you continue to prosper, may you continue to do great works, and may you continue to bring people together, and may you continue to bring humanity together. Thank you very much.